Hi there, my name's Richard Iliff. I'm from the Gold Standard and I will deliver this talk today, which acts as a short introduction to the methodology to estimate and verify ADALYs from cleaner household air. So the structure of this presentation will be to first set the scene by going through some of the impacts of household air pollution. Then I'll talk about the objectives of the methodology. Talk about some of the capacity building that has been taken place because this is quite a new methodology with some complex concepts. And then finally, I'll wrap up with the structure of the four main training modules that will be available for you. The impacts of cooking on health are enormous. Around 3 billion people cook and heat their homes using solid fuels like wood, charcoal, coal, dung and crop wastes on open or traditional stoves, which are highly inefficient. These fuels are typically burned in open fires, often indoors, leading to high levels of household air pollution from smoke. The exposure to high levels of smoke have been linked to a range of adverse health outcomes, including chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD for short, lung cancer, ischemic heart disease, asthma, and pneumonia, amongst many others. And household air pollution is the single largest environmental health risk, estimated to cause 4.3 million premature deaths each year, according to the World Health Organization. So this is 25% of all deaths from stroke, 17% of deaths from lung cancer, 15% of deaths from ischemic heart disease, and greater than 1/3 of all deaths from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Just to note that women and children are particularly at risk of disease from exposure to household air pollution, as women and children typically experience higher personal exposure levels owing to their greater involvement in daily cooking and other domestic activities. Some 60% of all premature deaths attributed to household air pollution occur in women and children. And the single biggest killer of children aged under 5 years worldwide is pneumonia. This disease cuts short almost 1 million young lives each year, and more than 50% of those pneumonia deaths are caused by exposure to household air pollution. The majority of these preventable deaths occur in low and middle income countries. The objective of the methodology. Payment for health benefit outcomes under results-based financing presents huge potential to incentivize implementation of projects that reduce household air pollution. But in order to enable finance and investment to flow at scale, there's a need for robust monitoring and evaluation framework that demonstrates and proves that the intended health benefits have actually been achieved. To this end, Gold Standard have developed the ADALYs methodology as a pioneering quantification and monitoring methodology for health benefits for household thermal energy requirement and lighting interventions that reduce indoor air pollution and the associated risk of health impacts. The methodology uses a concept known as averted mortality and disability adjusted life years, ADALYs, as the impact metric to estimate the health benefits. We would like to thank the funders of this methodology who've been instrumental in its development. So we would like to thank our partners Goldman Sachs, World Bank, Australian Aid and World Vision Australia. And we would also like to offer our special thanks to Sequest Capital for initiating the discussions on the development of this methodology and helping to secure the funding to kickstart the development process. Sequest Capital will also provide continuous support during the methodology development process by providing technical inputs on the draft of the methodology. In addition, We gratefully acknowledge the pioneering work of Professor Kirk Smith and his team at UC Berkeley, on which this methodology and the HAPIT tool is based. And finally, we would also like to thank the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves for their involvement in the development of this methodology. In terms of the contributors to the development of the methodology, as you can see from this slide, there are a wide variety of organisations, both from the private sector, the non-governmental sector, and the governmental sector and academic world. And we called upon the expertise of a wide variety of individuals, and the author team, as well as being composed of members from the Gold Standard Secretariat, also involved conspicuous members from the academic world, and we gratefully acknowledge their involvement in the development of this methodology. The ADALYs methodology is relatively complex and can be expensive to implement due to high monitoring costs of personal exposure monitoring. Therefore, it is essential to enable infrastructure and build capacity of various actors, including governments, potential project developers, auditors, monitoring and testing agencies, to understand the benefits and support the application of the methodology, with the ultimate aim of driving much needed finance to the clean cooking sector, specifically for improved health outcomes. To this end, the Gold Standard Foundation was contracted by the World Bank Group under the Efficient Clean Cooking and Heating Programme, with an objective to provide the enabling infrastructure and build the capacity of both project developers and auditors to help fully utilise the ADALYs methodology. The specific tasks included the integration of the ADALYs methodology into Cookstove Impact Quantification Tool, which is a web-based tool that allows project developers to design and monitor carbon finance cookstove projects. And furthermore, the development of HAPIT, the Household Air Pollution Intervention Tool, to convert the monitored exposures into ADALYs based on the current health literature. And the funding also involved the development of guidance material for potential projects in the form of a technical reference manual and an online tutorial and webinars, which is what you are listening to now. Finally, capacity development of project developers and auditors and HAPIT was also increased through 4 capacity building workshops that were held across Asia, Africa and Latin America. And the targeted audience of those attending were project developers, government agencies, monitoring and testing experts and academics as well. The objective of this tutorial is to provide an overview of the methodology and its requirements, to provide best practice guidance on key monitoring requirements, and to provide an overview of key elements incorporated into the methodology, such as HAPIT and Cookstove IQ. And the aim is to present this in a non-technical format to help practitioners understand the nuances of the methodology for successful use and application. The structure of the modules that follow are as follows. So the methodology overview provides a brief rundown of the eligibility requirements of the methodology, including the typical project types that are eligible. It also discusses the types of technologies and practices that are ineligible and why this is. And it also summarises the approaches that underpin the methodology. The second module, monitoring requirements and guidance, looks into the methodology monitoring requirements and also provides guidance on establishing the project boundary and what pollutants are included in the methodology. It also goes into further detail and guidance on field monitoring and discusses best practices for these areas, reflecting the on-ground experiences of sector experts who are currently implementing projects that aim to quantify health benefits. The third module centres on guidance on personal exposure monitoring. It discusses the techniques, the instruments, and guidance on field monitoring, and it discusses the requirements and statistical methods that are required to analyse the monitored results. The fourth module presents an overview of HAPIT, which underpins the methodology and shows how to use HAPIT for ADALYs quantification, and also it provides an overview of how to use the Cookstove IQ tool to enable successful certification of ADALYs using this tool.